Politically, I'm a Chicano. My early childhood was spent in a small village north of Santa Fe, and that village was 100% Hispanic, essentially, 99%. It was on the banks of the Rio Grande. My parents thought of themselves as Hispanic, and not Chicano had nothing to do with the Mexican culture. They were isolated in northern New Mexico. Northern New Mexico is an interesting place because the Spanish-speaking Europeans that went there got isolated. They were very far from Mexico City, and there was nobody else in America there except Native Americans. They were culturally isolated, and so they got to think of themselves as a breed apart. But I'm politically of a mind with sympathizing with those people, and I am part of them. In my family and in the community, spoke Spanish and English completely interchangeably. You start a sentence in English, finish it in Spanish. Whatever word comes up first in whatever language, you just use it and carry on in a free-flowing situation. My summers were just beautiful. I'd go down to the river, we'd fish, we'd play in the water, we'd ride horses. I had a good childhood, I believe. I was always really good at mathematics. I was 3 or 4 grades ahead in math and excelled in all of the competitions. Actually, I skipped a couple of grades altogether because I was reading at above grade level and so on. So I graduated from high school at age 16. I went to high school in Santa Fe as a boarding school because my parents thought I would get a better education in the big city, so to speak. St. Michael's High School was really instrumental in moving me towards a scientific career because I had not been exposed to science before that. My family had very little, if any, scientific training and no college experience. So I was the first person to graduate from college in my immediate family. The government had started a co-op program at New Mexico State University, co-op with White Sands Proving Ground, work 6 months, go to school 6 months. So that's how I earned my way through college. I applied for and got a Fulbright scholarship to Göttingen, Germany. Göttingen was the university in Germany in which quantum mechanics was developed. Oppenheimer was at Göttingen, Heisenberg was at Göttingen, and so the Max Planck Institutes, which are now the most prestigious German institutions, were all at Göttingen at the time when I went there. So I got to meet Heisenberg, and I got to meet Max Born, who is a very famous Nobel Prize-winning physicist. I had a seminar with Heisenberg. It was very exciting. I was so surprised. He's a short, roly-poly man, very family-oriented, very friendly, somewhat religious, actually, which surprised me. Very gentle and not dismissive. A lot of faculty in German universities and in American universities are rather brusque, and at least the physicists are, because there is a clear-cut yes or no answer to a problem, right? You know when you've got the right answer, right? And there's no gray area. And so when you know the truth, then it becomes a little intolerable to have somebody spouting things that aren't true. And so professors tend to be a little dismissive, and Heisenberg was never that way. He was very gentle. He would suggest that maybe there was another way to think about this, and then he'd lay it out completely. The thing that intrigued me and continues to intrigue me is the idea that classical mechanics works so well, and yet the world is not classical. It's quantum mechanical, right? Everything is quantum mechanical. So why does classical mechanics work, and where does it stop working, and when is it absolutely necessary to use quantum mechanics? And so I spent much of my career exploring that boundary between classical mechanics and quantum mechanics. And my publications all were in the application of classical mechanics to problems that people thought were only quantum mechanical. But they had a classical aspect, and I could show that you could understand much of the action, not all of it, but much of the action with just straight classical mechanics. I just took a course in biochemistry because I went to physics colloquia and the biophysicist would stand up there and they'd spout discussions of all kinds of fancy molecules that I didn't know the name of, and they were doing strange things and I didn't know how that worked. So last spring I decided to end that business, and so I took a course in biochemistry. That's marvelous. I hadn't explored organic chemistry or biology before in any depth, and it was just wonderful to take that course. I did all the homeworks, took all the tests, and learned an enormous amount, and that inspires me. Okay, it's those kinds of things. Learning inspires me. I think if you're not learning, you're going to die. Okay, so I think it's very simple, and I think it's true for everybody.